So notice how the Lord spends the whole night at the mountain praying before he selects, he chooses his apostles. And that's what he does every time we're being called. So we must be very accountable here to him, that we cost them a whole night's sleep. But of course it wasn't just a sacrifice, but it was a complete union with the Father, and in order then to recognize us and then call us by name. It's not just say, hey you, no, he calls us by name. And so today we celebrate, we remember how Saint Simon and Saint Jude, how they were called. And that how did the Lord then builds the church on this apostolic foundations. So if the Lord took so much care with those 12 in order to set as the foundation for the church, then we have to realize that you and I, who participate today in the Catholic Church, are set on the very foundation of the apostles. That we have an apostolic origin, an apostolic foundation, which many of our churches cannot claim. Founded by so-and-so, founded by another, and so on. They're not resting on the apostolic teaching and life and tradition. So we have, every time that we celebrate these great feast days of the apostles. Another, it tells us here about Saint Simon. Of course, we know from the first century, but we don't have exact when they were born, the year, but more or less around the same time of our Lord. Simon was called a Canaanite, I guess from Canaan, and also the Zealot, and an anti-Roman party. So in other words, he didn't like the occupiers. Possibly preached in Egypt and Persia, and mentioned in the Roman canon. So when we use the Eucharistic prayer number 1, you'll see here his name. And then you have Saint Jude or Thaddeus. Thaddeus means courageous. Well, again, first century. May have preached in Palestine and Persia. Also mentioned in the Roman canon. Patron of those in despair or in hopeless situations. Perhaps because of the similarity of his name with that of Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus and despaired. And for many, many years or centuries, there was always much confusion between Judas Iscariot and Judas Thaddeus. So it's the same name, Judas or Jude, same name. And it's only recently, it's recent that Saint Jude has come up in the front, or has become a popular saint. The establishment of the St. Jude National Shrine in South Chicago is the one that has given back in 1929 in South Chicago, is the one that really began to bring out the devotion to St. Jude by my brothers, the Claretians. So they established that shrine, and all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but continuously we kept growing and growing and growing in such a way that it's such a great devotion in the country. Through the mailings on St. Jude, we asked them to write their intentions on a piece of paper, and we put it by the altar of St. Jude, and which has the main relic there in the National Shrine. Well, underneath there's like a little well underneath the altar, which is lit and all that, but you end up putting how many, at least 20 boxes filled with intentions, and then after several months you have to remove them, burn them, and get new ones. That's how much devotion there is to St. Jude, that has not only spread throughout the United States, but internationally as well. I just so want to report from the Time magazine as well as the Newsweek about the devotion to St. Jude in Mexico City, in San Hipólito, where many of these people are trying to kick the drug habit, and they really come to St. Jude for it's a desperate case, and it's impressive the types of witnesses of people that go. In fact, the church is in the main, one of the main streets of the, I'm not sure what is it, Reforma, but it's one of the main ones. They have to get police because to rope off and divert the traffic, because it's not only filled inside, a big courtyard, the street itself is all filled with people on St. Jude on the 28th of every month. And then the testimonies of St. Jude to help them kick the habit, the drug habit, and many other things. So this continues. During the war, Vietnam War, and the regular, the World War II, there was so much devotion. We thought with Vatican II, it's going to go down because a lot of devotion. It kept increasing, so it kept going. So. What else should we say? Anything else there about St. Jude? I went to St. Jude Seminary, that's why I also remember that. We were chaplains of St. Jude Police League in Chicago, which has over 10,000 members of policemen only, men and women. Yes.
I think what sparked the thought to me was about the mistaken identity often of St. Jude and Judas. And what I think about is how the Lord spent the night in prayer choosing all of the disciples, all of the apostles. But they had to respond. And it was Judas's own choice. It was not the choice of Jesus. Jesus chose him as he did all the others. He chose to go the other way. And that can happen to us. We can choose to go the other way as well. And Jude the deist followed the Lord. Judas went his own way.
Yeah, I read somewhere, Bishop, that the parishioners there at the Claretian Parish where the St. Jude Shrine is, that, what I like about this is that it shows the personal relationship of the communion of saints, the Church Triumphant and the Church Militant. That the story I read was that some of the ladies there at the parish figured that because of the confusion of the names, that nobody was messing with Jude, that nobody was praying for his intercession because they didn't want to get him confused with Judas Iscariot. So they figured he was pretty much waiting in heaven with not a whole lot to do, and that they would call upon him for hopeless, desperate situations because he was being ignored. And I really like that whole dynamic of just that personalism. Well, poor Judas Thaddeus is probably being ignored because of the accident of his name. We'll call upon him, and he responded.
Father, the one who brought that was Father Joaquim de Prada, who was establishing a parish in there. He says, we need you. And he put St. Jude and St. Teresa. And where the people went to? St. Jude. And then he's just continued. A Spanish priest, Father Joaquim de Prada, whom I got to know. Yeah. Okay. All right, let us go then continue and ask our Lord to have their intercessions in Simon, St. Jude.